Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oguo, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santa, why you see us? Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai, Mudzimu, Mukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters, to our impromptu live session this evening, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. We're going in today. Standing on the rock of Mosiah. And as many of you may have heard, a couple hours ago, it was announced that the 46th president of the United States of America, in his outgoing series of clemencies or pardons, as many US presidents before him have engaged in, has chosen and seen fit to grant a so-called pardon to the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The long-awaited pardon, brothers and sisters, that Africans around the world have been campaigning for decades and for generations, has finally come. If you are not aware of the context of this situation, do not worry, brothers and sisters, because we will be getting into it. Yeah, we will be getting into it today. But we want to welcome you this evening to this special live session in which those who are sitting in the seat of the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, standing at the helm of the leadership of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020, are going to help to contextualize this for us this evening, this afternoon, depending on what time zone you're currently residing in, brothers and sisters. Wherever you're there, we'll welcome you and we'll say, give thanks. Mosiah lives. Garvey lives at this moment in time, brothers and sisters. We're not going to long out the thing, We're not going to long out the thing. We just want to make you know, as you come through, to please like the video. Hit the like button as you come through, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. Hit the like button as you come through. And also, share the link. Share the link far and wide, brothers and sisters. Let the people them know that Shakara is live with the parent body of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 dealing with Biden pardons Garvey. But you know, brothers and sisters, if you've been watching for a while, you know that we exonerate Garvey. So while Biden pardons Garvey, we exonerate Garvey, and we're going to be delving into the dynamics of all of these things. I come to you today in the spirit of Nana Amos Wilson. The anniversary of his passing was just a few days ago on the 15th of January. I come to you today in the spirit of Papa Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated and taken from us, brothers and sisters, in the year 1961, anniversary, the 17th of January, brothers and sisters. Excuse me. I come to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our ancestor, Baba Martin Luther King, the anniversary of his birth, brothers and sisters, also on the 15th of January. Noted anniversaries that are taking place in this dispensation of time, and we want to honor all of our ancestors as we come to you. I come to you, brothers and sisters, in the spirit of those who were the victims of the New Cross massacre. 13 dead and nothing said, victims of a firebomb attack in South London, brothers and sisters, in the year 1981. I come to you in the name of our ancestors, and we bring our ancestors with us in this space at this time with the prayer and the knowledge and the understanding that our ancestors will guide our thoughts, our speech, and our actions in this moment, brothers and sisters. And without further ado, let me bring forward to you the President General of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020. I say greetings. Garvey lives, Mosiah lives. The President General, Akili Nkrumah. Tendamwari, greetings, President General. You appear to be on mute, President General. So please unmute yourself.
There, I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are unmuted. PG.
All right. Thank you, sir. Greetings. Glad to be here. Look forward to have this conversation as we discuss and explain why we exonerate Garvey, because there was no crime committed. So I don't need your forgiveness for something I did not do. What I need
Exactly.
you to understand is what we are going to continue to do in honoring his words, works, and deeds, not only of Papa Garvey, but for the other men and women that stood with him and worked with him. And we will move
Exactly.
forward. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely, PG. Thank you very, very much. Let me bring forward, brothers and sisters, the first Assistant President General, of the UNIA-ACL. He goes, and I still call him my president affectionately. He goes by the name of Baba Senghor Jawara Baye. Baba Senghor, greetings and welcome. You are also on mute, Baba Senghor. Please unmute yourself. We got, I think, yeah. No, you're not unmuted yet. 1 second. I can't unmute you. So, yeah, you have to unmute yourself. Can
Yes,
you?
I did. You
There
hear
you
me?
go.
So
Yes, sir.
greetings,
Yeah.
everybody, and appreciate love to the President General and you, Ambassador Shaka Ra, and to all the listeners. And yes, it's a great day for many who basically celebrating not only Martin Luther King, but what President Biden has done. And we like to just great congratulations to Dr. Julius Garvey, who has fought for this for some time. But he, like we understand clearly, Garvey was never innocent. In fact, he should be exonerated because he was innocent. And we understand that we want our African people at home and abroad, like our President General said, to exonerate Garvey in their minds and their hearts and their spirits so we can go on and emulate the works, words, and deeds.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Let me bring forward second assistant PG, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. Warrior Mama, who I say she is our living manifestation of Mama Henrietta Vinton Davis in this dispensation of time, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. I speak to you of none other than Mama Chenzira. Greetings and welcome, Mama Chenzira.
Greetings, greetings. So tap o tap. I'm beyond honored, humbled in a way that almost made me speechless when you put me in any kind of realm of comparison like that with
Yeah.
our illustrious ancestress. And I definitely greet your viewing and listening audience. And I'd like to highlight something. Persons, it's very important to know the difference between a pardon and that beautiful statement of clemency. Very well intended. We're grateful to see that the POTUS of any sitting POTUS of the United States of America is able, capable, and willing to take such action. The term of clarity is exoneration. I'll say that one more time. And the term of clarity is exoneration. You can't pardon persons for something they never do,
That's right.
Absolutely.
right? So we
That's
don't wish
right.
for, we need his record completely
Completely
expunged,
cleansed.
completely cleaned from, in the manner in which it was from before. So, with that being said, we always say we exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. False. Them there, we're grateful. It's a wonderful exercise in political diplomacy. I think it's quite appropriate, even down to the last hours in his presidency. Perhaps if this had happened a few years earlier, we would have had time to really nurture and cultivate the clarity between clemency, pardoning, and
Yes.
outright, more accurately, exoneration. So give thanks.
We're going to get into all of those dynamics, and don't worry, brothers and sisters. This won't be the only show that we'll do on this because, as I said, many brothers and sisters have been campaigning for this, not just in the United States of America. There's been a significant campaign coming out of Jamaica, significant campaign coming out of the UK, and many other places, brothers and sisters. So we're going to hear from many of the legal minds, yeah, that have been on this, many of the activists that have been on this. We're going to get into it, brothers and sisters. I was about to bring forward our third assistant PG. He appears to have dropped off, so I'll await his return, brothers and sisters. But you know, he is like James Brown. He's the hardest working man.
I love
Yeah,
it. I love these
yeah,
comparative terms you're using here. You're keeping us in heights, in the heights,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
heights.
yeah. Chief Fun is the hardest working man in the movement. You know what I mean? So we give thanks for Chief Fun there, and we'll bring him forward shortly. There's another brother or sister here, and I'm not sure who they are, so
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
Mink.
wait for.
That's
Yeah,
what we meant.
yeah, he's an active member with us, brother Mink, longtime
Okay, cool.
activist. He's
I'll
good
bring him
too.
through.
You can,
I'll
yeah,
bring him
sure.
through. Because the elders have sanctioned the thing, and we're now fighting the elders them. So, so brother Menk, are you with us?
My camera is muted.
Yes, it is. Are you able to turn it on?
I'm still learning these things.
Oh, okay,
maybe
okay.
maybe it's an age difference, but we'll give praise to the pardon in the beginning of understanding the freeing of our minds from Marcus Garvey being imprisoned unjustly for
Absolutely,
raising the mantle of African people worldwide,
absolutely.
universally, for freedom and justice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Giving thanks, brother Menk, and I'm about to bring forward. Oh my gosh! Just again, he just dropped off. So you know how it
He'll be
goes.
back.
For those who are unaware, Chief Fode resides in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and so we know that there are sometimes unique challenges that come with organizing on the continent, brothers and sisters. And so we're going to be patient with our brother. He's always dutiful and insightful and willing, yeah, to work through whatever challenges that he has, brothers and sisters. So we're gonna be patient with our brother, and I'm sure he'll be able to join us very very soon. Okay, all right, PG. As is orderful. Let me begin with yourself, and just contextualize this for our audience. Yeah, it might be an idea for those who are completely unaware of what this means or why this is even a thing in the first place, to just give a brief contextualization as to what happened in 1923 and why we are here at the moment.
In 1923, Marcus Messiah Garvey was convicted in a court for mail fraud, saying that he was using the postal service to defraud people of African descent with the selling of stock. Now, I want to point out contextually that the envelope A was empty. A. B, there was no letter or even a flyer associated with it. That's B. Also, part of uh, those who testified against Marcus Garvey worked for the FBI and had been utilized and planted in the UNIA. And out of over 500 people that they reached out to, only three decided to say that they were unsatisfied with how it was working inside the UNIA. So let's
Mm-hmm.
conceptualize that. Here today, if you say and charge a person with mail fraud and produce nothing but an envelope, empty as it was, there is no reason that that person should be penalized and convicted of a crime. And should I also point out that the jury was not of his peers? It
Mm-hmm.
was of those who wanted to convict him anyway. See, so there was no real just trial. There was merely a execution of a type to remove Marcus Messiah Garvey from doing the work that he was doing. And he was raising the conscience level. Marcus Messiah Garvey had scared the white world, both in England and France and America and throughout the world, because he was raising the conscious level of people of African descent, saying that we too could have our own nation. We too deserve our own country. We too deserve the right to move forward. They feared his work. They feared the work they did. So putting it in concept, if I commit no crime, you have nothing to pardon me for. But since
Mm-hmm.
you blasphemed me with all of your arresting and then the deportation, you release me from prison, you commute my sentence per se, release me and take me right to a ship and ship me out of the country and ban me never to return to the shores of the US, as if I committed treason. No, the treatment of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey was not dead wrong. And this pardon does not change that history. And what we have to change is the history by bringing forth the truth. Bringing
Mm-hmm.
forth the truth of the trial and then realizing that we exonerate the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey because we know he committed no crime. And we exonerated the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, I think it was in 2022. We did not wait for it to happen. We did not wait for the white man to come around and say, oh, we're going to say you forgiven. Forgiven for what? forgiving for raising the conscious level of my people, moving us forward. That's conceptualizing the trial and the events of 1923. I know I'm brief, but the reality is, the more you think about it, people, the more that you begin to research it, ask yourself, what did Garvey do other than raise the conscious level of people of African descent? He said,
Absolutely.
build your own government. He was about the business of building it. He said, build your men and women of big affairs. He was about the business of building it. In 1923, people of African descent didn't have those kind of thoughts. Garvey did. And he planted them in our minds, and we would not let them go.
Thank you, Baba. Just before I move on to Baba Senghor and Mama Chen, just please contextualize the moment. Oh, before I do so, let me bring forward the hardest working man. You know what I mean? Chief Fode is in the building, brothers and sisters. Chief Fode, you know what I'm saying? The hardest working man in movement business. You know what I mean? Greetings, Chief Fode.
Greetings. How y'all doing, man? Salute.
Yes, sir. We lost your good looking face whilst we got your voice. So I don't know if you could work that out, my brother. But please do if you can. Yeah. All
Okay.
right. And brother Meg, feel free to come back when you can as well. So PG, just in relation to this moment, at this moment in time, yeah, what is the significance of this pardon for us as Garveyites, for the wider Pan-African movement in general? What is the significance of this moment?
Actually, the significance of this moment is it brings about the conversation surrounding the Marxist Messiah Garvey. The actual deed in and of itself, I don't put a great deal of stock in it, but it is bringing the conversation. It is bringing back Garvey into the fold, with the discussion of the movement, and the activity becomes significant, because people will look and try to determine, oh, the pardon means he's given. No, the pardon means they said just what they said. Okay, you did wrong, but we okay. We have to make sure we tell them that he did not do wrong. See, so it puts us at the time of driving home the conversation of the real work and the activity of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and all the men and women with him. We focus on Garvey, but let us also realize, you mentioned Henrietta Vinton Davis in introducing Queen Mother. She was a strong part of the movement that we deal with Garvey. We have to dig in Amy Jacques Garvey. So it gives us the platform to move this conversation to the direction that it should be. And although you start with the part, and please understand, people, he didn't do it, and he could have kept that.
Absolutely.
And, and I know people worked for it, but he could have kept that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? A little later on, I will read some excerpts from a book by I forget his name now, but the book is called Jailing a Rainbow. Yeah. From a legal mind on the details of the case, and why we say without equivocation that Papa Garvey is innocent, brothers and sisters, of what
Yes.
he was charged with. Thank you very much, PG. We're going to come back to you shortly.
Yes, sir.
In order of the order, let me go to the second assistant. Sorry, the first assistant, PG. Right about now, Baba Senghor. And just riff off anything that our PG has said, Baba Senghor. Feel free to just add anything that you feel needs to be added. You're muted again. Sorry, elders. I've been muting you because
Okay.
there's
All right,
I
I'm
want to.
good.
Yeah?
So I just want to ditto what the President General said, but I want to give you some history. In
Yes, sir.
1987, I was at the hearing when Congress was addressing the issue of both exoneration and pardon. The position that the UNIA took, as Baba Achilles so clearly articulated, moved all the way up to Honorable Charles L. James, who served as President General at that time, where we demanded an exoneration versus a pardon.
That's right.
That was with Congress. Also,
Mhm.
Queen Mother Moore was there. Also, Dr. Julius Garvey was there. Also, Marcus Garvey Jr. was there. Even Robert Hill was there. Dr. Tony Martin was there. Quite a few others. I didn't mention everybody because there was a lot of people there. Even Judith Stein was there. But it was, Doc Ben was there. And it was articulated at that particular time, the differences in a pardon versus exoneration. However, we know that Congress dropped the ball and did not address what all of those giants laid out to them
Mhm.
clearly, that actually a crime was committed against Garvey.
Against Garvey.
Yes. And so it's clear that the government of the UNIA and many knowledgeable Garveyites have always been clear of the differences in exoneration versus pardon. So the President General, Akili Nkrumah, in 2020 and up to now, called on all African people to exonerate Garvey in their minds, because some of our people think Garvey was not what he really was. Some people were hoodwinked by Urugu and think Garvey was actually a criminal, which he was not. In
That's
fact,
right.
several crimes was committed against Garvey. The first criminal was they locked him up for a fictitious charge. Then they took away his human rights and forced him out of the United States. Then they followed him all around the world, traced him, did everything they could to dishonor him, and actually published his death before he was even dead. So what we saw is they made a move to try to wipe Garvey's legacy away from history, away from our story, so we did not catch hold to the fact that Garvey was not before his time, but in time, and we were behind time. And it's our job to catch up with our ancestors like Garvey and those who came before him. So I wanted to make it clear that this fight has been going on for some time to get America to do the right thing. Now, as everybody has articulated, we are very diplomatic and we are very clear. We thank them for doing what they say they did, so that hopefully opens the minds of our African people around the world that Garvey should be exonerated in our minds, at home and abroad, and we should emulate his work and continue to work. Because as Garvey said, count on him to be the real Marcus Garvey in death, because we know in the African tradition, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and our ancestors are waiting and watching for us to stop being so apathetic so we can get busy to free up Africa. All the political prisoners that are locked down should be freed up. We want reparations, we want restitution, we want justice, we want Africa now.
Yes, Baba, and thank you for evoking lesson number 9, in the course of African philosophy, diplomacy. I'm gonna blame it on my relative youth and say that I'm a little bit less diplomatic.
That's not
in-
youth. So I'm not necessarily always diplomatic either, and I learned the course the hard way.
you know what I mean? But having said that, diplomacy is extremely important.
Yeah.
So we give thanks for the Prophet for giving us the example and the lesson in that regard. Baba Sengo, we're going to come back to you. Let me give a word to Mama Chenzida, and we'll continue from there. Go ahead, Mama Chenzida. Same to you. Feel free to repeat anything that you had before.
Diplomacy is I like to call on African Queen Mother Warrior, Sister Dr. Sandra. English is not my first language. English is
Absolutely.
not my language. We just use it as a means of communication for now, right? For now.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to come back to something you referenced so that the viewers and listeners are very clear. It was Justin Hansford.
Hansford. Yes,
Right.
sir. Yes, sir.
And it's the book Jailing a Rainbow, The Unjust
Yep.
Trial and Conviction
Right.
of Marcus Garvey. I think that's an excellent treatise to actually recognize from a legal standpoint what was done incorrectly and intentionally to not only dismantle the life, the presence, the spirit, the essence of the work of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, to dismantle his family, to
Mm-hmm.
challenge the ability of the UNIA-ACL. People thought when he was arrested that the UNIA-ACL as a government ceased to exist, not knowing that it just became, the fervor became even more engaging, more focused, more forward moving, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
why there's persons that thought that even in the 60s, maybe it kind of leveled down and it's not really full of Africans around the globe that are involved in the UNIA-ACL. And that's far from the truth. I would also like to veggie back on what the first Assistant President General Baba Senghor shared in regard to the significant dignitaries, African dignitaries, those luminaries more accurately, that were involved in pressing the United States Congress even before it was able or even capable of recognizing the importance of exonerating one so great as His Excellency, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. And I want to pull on something that I personally heard come from the mouth of my Baba, well, one of my Babas, the Honorable Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinan. May he
Mm-hmm.
rest in peace, and his entire vibration and be remembered generationally and into eternity. And it's when he spoke to and gave lectures on Black Man Wake Up, because he Marcus Garvey influenced his life significantly,
Yes. Yes.
significantly. That was who he looked to in regard to his work. And we know the level of greatness that Baba Dr. Ben engaged in. And it was specific to that whole discussion of the importance of the exoneration versus any kind of clemency or pardoning or whatever. And it's really, again, English has a way of, yes, we're very grateful, excited even, and it's all through the media. Persons are really on a high because of this inclusion of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey in this clemency statement, again, dated today, keeping in mind this is on the eve of the 48 contiguous US's celebration, commemoration of the Earth Strong, actually on January 15th, but the third Monday of
Mm-hmm.
January, but of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But it's also on the eve of an inauguration that's going to, we know what media will do with this. They'll just try to make it not seem as important. And so for those that were instrumental, I also give a special shout out to the Congressional Black Caucus for actually creating a series of statements, a series of declarative statements to encourage the sitting president of the United States of America to exonerate. I want to highlight that. They didn't just say pardon, they didn't just speak of clemency.
Mm.
It was very clear that based on a number of legal arguments, a number of publications, that exoneration was intended. So we're, we're appreciative, but we have to keep coming back to we African Black people inert. We have to exonerate and keep that vibration. We exonerate him. So maybe we need to make our own commemorative decree and have our own international press statement from our own leaders so we exonerate him first. Because them there, they're not qualified, nor do they have the authority.
Absolutely, Mama.
That's it.
Right, we're gonna try and get. Oh, he was just there. All right. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a couple minutes just to read through a couple pages from Jailing a Rainbow. Yeah, and the purpose of this, brothers and sisters, is just to update those who are unclear about some of the details of the actual case. Okay, and why it's important and why this has been a campaign for all of these years. Yeah. So let me just share my screen very quickly, and I'll ask my elders to be patient with me as I go through this. Because I think it's a good idea just to give people a little bit of the details of the case from a legal mind. And do stay tuned, brothers and sisters, because we're going to be going through some of this in the future, as well as the campaign for exoneration with some of our elders, brothers and sisters in the movement at a later date. All right. So let me see now. Okay. Okay. All right. So this should do it. And everybody else should be able to view this now. Okay, so we're going to be reading from this book, Jailing a Rainbow, the Marcus Garvey Case, by Justin Hansford. Yeah, by Justin Hansford. Forgive me because the text is going to be small, but I promise you will be greater enlightened as we go through. Can I ask those on the panel to please not watch the YouTube and or mute themselves? Yeah, I'm hearing some feedback. Thank you very much, my elders. Much appreciated. Yeah, for your grace. All right. The beginning on page 62 of the book, it says a counter narrative of the Black Star Line mail fraud. In February 1922, Mark Garvey and the three other Black Star Line officers faced two indictments that together contained 13 counts. The government eventually won a conviction against only Garvey. Yeah, so bear this in mind that there were two other individuals who were in the leadership, yes, of the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation, all right, running the Steamship Corporation, who were also charged. They were both acquitted. Yes, no charges were levied, further charges were levied against them, and they were not found guilty of any charges, of any of the 13 counts.
Right.
Yeah, and listen, the government eventually won a conviction against only Garvey based on only one of the 13 counts against him. Yeah, so this is very important for us to understand, right? On only one of the 13 counts against Papa Garvey was he found guilty in this kangaroo court. Yes. And the other two individuals who were on trial with him were not found guilty of any of the 13 counts. All right. This count alleged that Garvey committed mail fraud by causing a letter to be mailed to Benny Dancy on December 20th, 1920, a letter which encouraged Dancy to buy stock in the Black Star Line, even though the Black Star Line at the time had no ships, was near ruin, and would never obtain any more ships or return to solvency. The mail fraud statute required 1, the existence of a scheme to defraud, and 2, the use of the US mail to effectuate or attempt to effectuate the scheme. On appeal, Garvey's lawyers would argue that the trial court had not established the second element, the use of the mails to effectuate the scheme. However, choosing to make this argument was a grave mistake. This is an analysis of an actual lawyer. Yes. In fact, the government did present sufficient evidence for the second element, but in this case, it did not present adequate evidence to satisfy the first element, the existence of the scheme to defraud. Although Garvey's case largely turned on the question of this first element, whether his activity qualified as a scheme to fraud, it is difficult to identify a precise statutory definition for fraud here because of the exceptionally wide net cast by the ambiguous terms of Section 215 of the Mail Fraud Act and its language prohibiting a scheme or artifice to defraud. Before Garvey's trial, the Durland case provided the authoritative definition of a scheme to defraud. At that time, Durland was quote, by far the most important of decisions in the mail fraud jurisprudence. In Durland, the court established that a scheme to defraud requires intent to defraud, which in turn requires knowledge of the fraud. In 2 clear statements, Durland set forth the intent requirement. It declared that the significant fact is the intent and purpose. The court also stated, quote, if the testimony had shown that the defendant, as its president, had entered in good faith upon that business, no conviction could be sustained, no matter how visionary might seem the scheme. Yeah. So if Papa Garvey has no knowledge of any fraud or guan, he cannot be convicted of any crime. That's what all that long legalese is basically saying. All right. That's what all that means. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Legal point 1, the Black Star Line was not a scheme to defraud because Garvey had no intent to defraud. That's a subheading. In Garvey's case, the Durland analysis of whether the first element of the claim, the existence of a scheme to defraud, was satisfied, turned on whether the Black Star Line enterprise was created with the intent to defraud, or whether the Black Star Line advertisements were mailed with an intent to cheat the stockholders. Certainly, the Black Star Line officers engaged in unprofessional business practices that called the officers' judgment into question. For example, we'll leave the example, it's not important for now. Yeah. However, regardless of the impropriety of these acts, none of them could be understood to fulfill the legal definition of fraud pursuant to this statute. Instead, the poor business practices were merely mistakes from which none of the defendants benefited. Nobody was getting rich off the Black. It's very important for us to understand this. Nobody was waxing themselves rich off of the Black Star Line. I want to know understand what going on. Yes, sir. All right. Least of anybody, Marcus Mosiah Garvey himself. Okay. It's very important for us to understand. All right. The larger question is what motive did Garvey have to create a scheme to defraud? After confiscating the Black Star Line accounting records, the government found that Garvey took no money for his own personal use. I repeat, after confiscating the Black Star Line accounting records, the government found that Garvey took no money for his own personal use and personal enrichment was not alleged in the indictment. If Garvey did not gain financially from the sale of the stock, what motive did he have to commit fraud? Although personal enrichment is not an element of the mail fraud statute, it is unlikely that the drafters contemplated that a fraud scheme in which someone would run an expensive time-consuming operation, such as a shipping company, for no personal benefit would fall under the statute's purview. Indeed, Garvey had many financial incentives for making the Black Star Line a success. He was supposed to receive a salary of $10,000 a year from the Black Star Line, which never materialized once it went into decline. The Black Star Line board of directors determined whether Garvey would receive the salary. This decision, in turn, depend on the financial strength of the Black Star Line at the time. In addition, Garvey owned 200 shares of stock, which he purchased with his personal money. So when the Black Star Line went under, Garvey faced great financial loss. The premise of the conviction was that he intended to run the Black Star Line in a way that would cause it to never gain in value. Yet, in spite of this, sell stock at inflated price. However, because Garvey had so much of his personal financial fate invested in the project, by purposefully ruining the Black Star Line, Garvey would have lost thousands of dollars and gained nothing. Without any financial incentive, prosecutors would have the court believe that Garvey built this entire organization as one big practical joke or out of mean-spiritedness alone. Yeah. So that's just a couple excerpts from the book, brothers and sisters. Jailing a Rainbow, the Marcus Garvey case by Justin Hansford. Yeah. So I thought that was important just to give some details from a legal perspective on the actual case. And I hope that helps ones and ones understand Wagwan Yassa and why we say that there is no conviction of Marcus Garvey that can be justifiable in the realm of Marcus Garvey being guilty of any crime. Right. Let me try and get Chief Fode in, Mansa Fode in right now. Mansa Fode, are you with us? Oh, it says, hold on a second. We're going to try it again. Mansa Fode, are you with us? Mansa Fode. We're going to be patient with our brother.
There he is.
Are you with us? All right. Let's get it in. Nope, he's gone again. Okay, all right. So based upon that, my elders, yeah, anyone can feel free to go on this. Is there anything that needs to be added or contextualized where that is concerned before we move on to some other matters?
I think the excerpt that you read and spoke about was excellent and on time because it does explain the depth that they went through in order to convict him of a crime that was not there, and also utilizing their own laws. Had they just followed them, he would have walked free. And Garvey actually believed he should have done that. But the reality is that's why they can't pardon him. It's why a pardon is being diplomatic. It is nice that this president, in his last remaining hours, did what a black president would not do in 8 years. So put it in context. Okay, but I'm not thankful, and I'm not really going to say it's appreciative because it kind of sheds it a wrong light because now you will have the Negro people saying, see, they pardoned Garvey, they were good people, they did the right thing. No, the right thing would have been A, to not convict him, B, follow our lead and exonerate him from all things so that the slate is clean. And then when you tell the story, you can tell the story truthfully. I do have a statement to read, but I will read it later.
Yes, Baba. When you're ready, please let us know, and we'll get that to you. Baba Sengo, I want to ask you about some of the fallout from the conviction of 1923, because as we just read, as a part of the trial, UNIA documents were confiscated.
Hmm.
Yes. And we know that as a result of that trial, it gave the FBI and various different police departments around the United States of America the authority, so to speak, to confiscate much of the UNIA ACL property, documentation, even real estate. Yeah, was
Hmm.
attacked as a result of all of these wranglings, right? So, have we heard, Baba Sengo, that as a result of this clemency, that the United States of America, the government, the FBI, and various different police forces are going to return UNIA ACL property to the UNIA ACL? Are we hearing that the documentation that was confiscated will be returned to the UNIA ACL? Is there going to be reparative justice? Yeah, for all the things that were lost, yeah, as a result of this false charge. Are we hearing these things as a part of this clemency at the moment,
No,
Baba Single?
absolutely not. Uh, you hear me? Absolutely not. But let me say something about what you just read, because Brother Justin had an opportunity of meeting our Counsel General before he went into the ancestral realm, Brother Farouk Muhammad, and Sister Nkichi Taifa, some gigantic legal minds. And what he did was take it further and forward in publishing that work. So I commend him, and hopefully soon you'll get Mama Nkichi and probably him on your show so that they
Yes,
can
please.
they
Yep.
can address the legal issues very articulately. But absolutely not. In fact, a lot of things have been on the table for Mr. Biden to address. He's chosen to address some things, but it's a whole lot of things like releasing political prisoners, uh, like you say, restitution, not only returning what belonged to the UNIA that may be in the file somewhere with the FBI, CIA, et cetera, but also the injustices that are done by not allowing various different things to move forward where it relate to reparations and restitution and justice for all Africans. I think the President General Akili spoke to that earlier. When we talk about Garvey being attacked, the whole African race was attacked.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so the answer to your question is no. They haven't even thought about that, because
Well,
one
well,
of the
well
things that
maybe Baba Single, maybe this might help, because I know you're effective, you're well knowledgeable about the history of the UNIA ACL. It might be good just to give our viewers an idea of how the attack went. What was confiscated, how was it confiscated, what did the UNIA lose in the
well one of the
1930s
most
as a
important
result of
things
this attack?
it lost was the
Yeah.
minds of African people, because
Mm,
African people's minds were hoodwinked that were even working with Garvey, and they
right.
were misled. So that human resource is probably the biggest loss. But in
Yes, sir.
addition to that, properties, etc., went all downhill, because as
Hmm.
they attacked Garvey and pushed Garvey, as I said, his human rights were violated, and he was excommunicated from the United States through New
Hmm.
Orleans.
Hmm.
When that was done, it created infighting amongst Black people who did not understand the importance of standing firm with those Africans who fought, as the President General early said, for Marcus Garvey's release. So let's be
Yes,
clear. When Garvey was jailed, while he was even incarcerated,
yes,
African
sir.
people who were conscious continued to fight and
Hmm.
demanded. So this is why we believe Calvin Coolidge actually communicated his sentence, because it was so much pressure coming from African people. But on the other side of the fence, unfortunately, many of our African people got lost in their minds and were hoodwinked to think that the UNIA, which Amy Jocks Garvey, Marcus Garvey, Henrietta Van Davis built, was not necessarily the vehicle they needed to use. So here we are today rebuilding. So I just wanted to make it perfectly clear that
Absolutely.
while we don't expect the Yurugus to do the right thing, we want
Hmm.
our people to do the right thing and to come back in their mindset, because
Yes, sir.
Garvey is the only person and the entity of the UNIA that presented a self determination platform that we see breaking loose today in the 21st century in the Sahel states and around the world, and people are coming back to self-determination. But for many, many years, because of those files that are being taken, and you can read Robert Hill's works and see all of the things that took place and the different things
Yeah.
that were taken from the movement. But now we're at a point where rebuilding with less resources. But thanks to 2020, thanks to uh, the Rehabilitating Committee 2020, we're clear that we can rebuild. African people can do whatever we have done. And Garvey taught us that. So despite the fact they've taken away property, they've taken away documentation, they've tainted information and republished it, as Dr. Tony Martin so clearly articulated in his work with Race First.
Yes,
We
sir.
need to be very clear to come back to self-determination. We can rebuild all of that was taken from us, and regardless to what Urugu does, we can rise. And it's
Baba,
nothing that we cannot achieve.
I know this is not what you meant, but I do want to give you a chance to clarify. In Race First, Baba Tony Martin does also speak to the mass support that Papa Garvey received around the
Yes,
world. When it
yes.
came to being charged and convicted and imprisoned and deported. And are you able to speak to that a bit? You just
No, yes,
how
absolutely.
how do people respond?
Absolutely. Like
Yes.
I can clarify, because of the pressure that came
Mhm.
from people who were Garveyites, is one of
Yes,
the
sir.
reasons Calvin Coolidge more than likely decided to uh, 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 uh,
Commute.
uh, to commute Garvey's sentence to two and
Yes,
a
sir.
half years rather than the 5-year terms. But
Yes,
I
sir.
wanted to be clear that all African people who were in support of Garvey before he
Yes,
was
sir.
attacked did not come
Mhm.
along with that
No, for
particular
that ride,
group of people.
definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
So there
I,
was
go ahead, go ahead.
so it's important for us to recognize that when we were attacked and when he was character assassinated, because that was also a very important part of coming at Garvey. Even though they didn't come directly at the UNIA, by coming at
Mhm.
Garvey, you
I
kind
went
of
at the
broke away the
UNA.
leadership and you caused dissension amongst the African minds. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Yes,
And
sir.
you're absolutely right. Many of the Garveyites that studied, me and the President General studied under, like Thomas W. Harvey and Charles L. James, they were the ones that led that charge. But there were other Africans who
Hmm.
created problems for the UNIA. There was many Africans who even sued the UNIA, thinking that they could get money from the UNIA. So I want to be clear about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Baba, for that. I just think it's important for people to know that there were mass campaigns all around the world, hundreds of thousands of people signing petitions, and in fact, possibly the support that Papa Garvey and the UNIA-ACL had at that time is possibly best demonstrated by the fact that we were able to raise enough money to start a whole new shipping line. Yeah, even after all this nonsense. Yeah, the Black
Hmm.
Star, to say the Black Cross Navigation and Trading
Trading
Company.
company.
Yeah,
Hmm.
later on. Yeah, and so let's just highlight that. These are aspects of history that we need to get into. In more detail on another date, brothers and sisters. I'm hearing from Mansa Fode, they're having difficulty, especially with this platform that we're using at the moment. So apologies for that, Chief Fode. But yeah, if you can come through, do come through. Mama Chenzida, I wonder, as well as anything else that you want to respond to, if you are able to speak to the campaign to exonerate Papa Garvey as it came out of the Caribbean. There have been many calls. There were pushes, um, particularly under the premiership of Prime Minister PJ Patterson in Jamaica. And even since he's not been prime minister, he was involved in some campaigns in Jamaica to exonerate Papa Garvey in America and so on. Yeah, are you able to speak to this in any way, shape, or form as far as it relates to the Caribbean and the campaign to exonerate Papa Garvey?
First and foremost, I think it's really important. There's a couple things that were shared, and I encourage persons that are viewing and listening so that this doesn't become like a talking head conversation. There are number. There's a number of. I'm trying to see. Chief, our third assistant president general, is also trying to call in through another device I have here. So I'm just trying to see if I can get him on.
Yeah,
Just give me a moment.
go ahead, Mama.
Give me a moment. I'm trying to see how to make the technology that's trying to be on top of things work in our favor. Are you able to turn on your video at all, Chief Mansa?
Let me try again.
Okay, no, because I have you here. They
We
are
we
you able
we,
to
we for the
hear me?
record, we can hear him clearly. So
We can
if you
hear
can,
him.
Perfect. So I can hear you very clearly through this device right now. So would you like to go ahead and make your statement here?
Yeah, sure. I just have a few. Just want to first greet the parent body and thank Baba Sakurai for organizing this. But also, I was wanting to say that this is a minimal kind of victory, and that so many people have put so much resources into pursuing a party that doesn't and could never exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Mhm.
I love the fact that we, the UNIA-ACL RC2020, as I believe I heard PG say earlier, we initiated a campaign. We exonerate Garvey years ago. It's 2025 now. We've been on it already.
Yeah.
But at least 3 years ago, we've been in this movement specifically that it's time to exonerate Garvey, that nobody can do it but us. Nobody but African people can exonerate Garvey. And only through the works that take us closer to African unity and liberation. So when you see what's happening in the Sahel, that is it. You see what we're doing right here, right now, in response to this news coming out that Jim Crow Biden has any kind of righteous authority to pardon anyone. This is Jim Crow Joe. Let's not be confused about who this is. Doing this, and let us not be confused about the kind of intentions and the kind of backwards kind of thinking is behind it. So some people will celebrate it, but I'll say all the way from Freetown, Sierra Leone, this is nothing really to celebrate. And what it is time for us to do is to say at least we got these devils to the point where they got to start making some compromises. That's what's happening. Africa is rising. And now even Jim Crow Joe has to compromise. Look at us. Look to ourselves. We are the whirlwind. And I believe that's what Garvey wanted us to see. I really appreciated what Brother Shakarai brought to the table as well in terms of reviewing the actual details of the case, because a lot of people, even those who call themselves Garveyites, have not given a few days of research and study to the actual details of the frivolous case.
Yeah.
They assume that Garvey was innocent because we say so. No, he literally
He was innocent.
was an innocent man all of the whole time. And so I really appreciate as well, Baba Senghor, what you were doing in terms of breaking down the impacts, the kind of negative effects that his arrest and his incarceration and ultimately his deportation from the United States caused the African world, and we're still suffering from it today.
Yes.
Even right now, we're still trying to gain that ground. 100 years later, so they put us back a century. It means nothing. It doesn't liberate anybody. You know what? Liberate Mumia. Get Mumia out of prison.
How about that?
Leave Asada alone. How about that? So we still here, 10 toes down, boots on the ground in the struggle. And I'm just asking for my African brothers and sisters out there who look to us for leadership and reliable information to recognize it, but also know that we exonerate Garvey. Find out what you can do within your community to get organized towards African sovereignty. Educate yourself. Understand what this is. This is literally a struggle. We've been fighting for 100 years just for them to say they pardon Garvey. You might say, pardon me.
Yeah.
As if he did something wrong. Garvey did nothing wrong but lead us.
Right.
And so,
Absolutely. But so funny. Can you hear me?
For our leaders, and then 100 years later say, "I pardon you." That's what this is. This is a historical lesson for us today. No celebrations. Let's grind. Let's take this in, take it to our altars, take it to our ancestors, wait for our leadership from above to tell us what's next, because that's what's going on. We're not looking to Joe Biden, not looking to no Democrats, not looking to no Republicans. Clearly, like I said, look to yourself. We are the whirlwind. So with that, I'll say, I don't know why I'm not able to get on, reading everything, but I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to say what I had to say. Thank you, Queen Mother, for being my technical assistance here.
Can Matt Safari hear me?
To the people out there.
See, everybody's technical.
Don't
but stay,
let it fool you.
exactly, but stay in this platform, because if
Yeah, I was going to ask Chief Funny about the issue of political prisoners. As you will be aware, Chief Funny, if you can you hear me, Chief Funny?
I don't think he's hearing you as clearly as you hear him.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Well, if you can relay this, Mama Chenzina,
Yes,
that
I'm going to repeat what he says.
I think what I have to do is, because I was watching on the video.
Okay, well, I'm going to let him say it, and then I'm going to repeat it to you. And because they're hearing you clear. You hear, when Chief is speaking, you hear him clearly, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
So let me just ask him. Let me just relay what you're asking him.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, no worries. Brothers and sisters, thank you for your patience in this regard. We've got Mansa Fode on the line as well over there in Sierra Leone. And Mansa Fode is an experienced activist. And I was going to ask him about the issue of political prisoners as they exist today. As has been said previously in relation to the We Exonerate Garvey issue, the strength of that movement and the significance of that call only really has relevance if we relate it to the issue of the fact that there are still political prisoners in prison today, living today, brothers and sisters, who are in prison for fighting on behalf of African people. Mumia Abu Jamal being the most famous of those names, and a few of them were only released in the last couple years, like Matulu Shakur, like Baba Jalil Mutakeen, like Baba Sekou Odinga, many of whom passed away, became ancestors within months of their release. I would like to ask Mansa Fode to please let's delve deeper into the issue of modern day political prisoners and how the issue of Papa Garvey's exoneration or pardon relates to the issue of modern day political prisoners.
All right. So, Chief, the essence of that question is, can you speak to the relationship of this quote unquote pardon of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey in comparison to the still incarcerated and or those political prisoners in the U.S. that were released like within months of them becoming ancestors? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It just shows you, to me, that the American system has a fetish with suffering us before we die. To me, it's a direct contradiction. The answer, brothers, it's a direct contradiction in the fact that Jim Crow Joe is responsible for the majority of the incarcerated Africans in the United States right now, being that the policies created and proposed and overseen and enforced. So for him, of all people, to be now doing something like this is almost like a slap in our face. It's almost like a mockery, because Mumia is still there. Because if you want to pardon and you want to free anybody, free the living, we got Garvey. You understand? It's like, what really is behind the political gesture? And I could just imagine what's in the mind of Mumia or even Asada, as we look forward to more struggle with these same demons. Mm-hmm. And they're just playing in our face here. This is playing in our face. I don't know if I should be happy or if I should be offended by the fact that it's Jim Crow Joe. You know, it's like, wow,
Like
you,
that. Crow Joe.
you know, and then at the same time, you know, we have to continue to struggle to free our own political prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
We also have to identify who they are and maintain relationships with them so that we can continue their liberation campaigns as well. This is something that has been falling behind as well, and this is why I believe that we got to rescue Mumia. We got to put Mumia right there on the national
national scale.
Because the symbol that he's become, not only not that one life or one person's freedom is more valuable than the other, but Mumia has become a symbol for the whole world. And when you think political prisoner, you think Mumia. When you think of what a political prisoner actually is, you think Mumia Abu Jamal.
Absolutely.
And so I just think we got to up the ante. I think we have to call the contradiction. We have to continue to demand that they free them all, and we got to keep fighting. But I don't think we could ever get justice from our enemies.
No.
Yes, sir.
We can never get more justice from our enemies. So like I said, this is a minor, very, very, very small thing that now we can say, aha, even the government party and continue our work is honorable. But I just don't want the people to be deceived. The real struggle is to liberate the minds of our people right now. And there's a lot of prisoners of conscience. There's people who would be on the streets contributing to these movements, contributing to this self-determination that's incarcerated. And a lot of people have been incarcerated for a long time. We got to free our people. We have to really continue to fight the system to get them out of there, because it's the last vestiges of chattel slavery. It's right there in our face. So it's even beyond the political prisoner question. I think it's broader even to the prisoner question in general.
Absolutely.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
Thank you very much, Chief Fode. Mama Chenzida, and I know that you gave way for Chief Fode just now. So if you want to make
But
your own contribution,
I just would like to make sure, because I'm not going to be able to hear you as well as long as he's on this other platform. So I just like to make sure, if you have any other inquiries, any other statements you'd like to make, Chief, that you can make them now before I even try to come off this other platform and come to you.
Feel free. Feel free.
All right. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, just keep up the good work, parent body. Give my salutations again to PG, Killian Kuma. Much respect to Baba Senghor, Dr. Chinzara, and you, Shakara, for always being on time. Regardless of what, it's another day, it's another historic moment, and I would just say keep grinding. If you're out there and you see this, just know that we exonerate Garvey. I'll say it again, we exonerate Garvey. There's only us, no one else can do that. We can never look to our enemy to exonerate Garvey, ever. We exonerate Garvey through our works. We exonerate Garvey by pursuing African sovereignty and liberation. That's how we do it. So get involved with the movement. Reach out. See what you can do to connect with the UNIA-ACL RC2020. We have many divisions and a whole lot of work. We could use some solid soldiers. If you're out there and you're lingering and you're looking for a home, look no more. One thing that it does, this whole situation does, is, in the past, I've been in debates and arguments with people who are anti-Garvey, and they will always bring up the fact that he was a political prisoner, that he was framed up. But they would push it as if, he actually did something. And I think this presidential pardon, it kind of silences those kind of people that would like to use the misinformation as an attack against the most honorable and ultimately against Africa. Any attack on Marcus Messiah Garvey is an attack on the whole ideal and nation of Africa. Every single one of us is attacked. And until we develop that type of consciousness and commitment and loyalty to this ideal, to this future vision that we have for ourselves, we're going to keep losing, going to keep fighting. So with that, I just say thank you very much again, Queen Mother, for allowing me the technical assistance.
Absolutely. That's what we do. That's what we do.
Blacktricity,
Yes,
blacktricity.
sir.
That's what we do.
Thank you very much, Mama Chenzilla, for allowing us to hear our good brother. His contribution is very important, so much appreciated.
Still hear me. There's more going on. I'm trying. I didn't plan to come in my tech capacity, but I realize it's going to be like that, right? That's the part we just know.
That's what we
Much,
do.
much
That's what we
appreciated, Mama.
do.
That's what we do.
Much appreciated.
Blacktricity.
Much appreciated.
Thanks.
I,
That
I
was
I do want to just buttress Mansa Fode's points, yeah, by
yes.
just evoking the name of Marcellus Khalifa Williams, yeah, who was a brother who has been on death row for a number of years and was in fact executed by I forget which state in America only last year. Yeah, and in the final hours of his life, there was a global campaign for
I
his
ain't ready for
sentence.
that.
Yeah, what I'm saying, to be negated
Yeah.
because he's widely believed to be innocent. And it's the same establishment that is now granting this pardon was not able to save that brother's life. Yeah. And so I just want to put that in our minds again, taking nothing away, brothers and sisters, from the significance of this win on behalf of our movement at this moment in time. But it's very important for us not to become complacent. Yeah. What I'm saying? It was Baba Amilcar Cabral who compelled us to claim no easy victories. Yeah, claim no easy victories, brothers and sisters. So we can, bask in the glory of the pardon to whatever extent it means something. Yeah, but we must remember. Yeah, we must remember the context in which we live, and if Papa Garvey can be pardoned in the same context as Marcellus Khalifa Williams is executed, yeah, we've still got work to do. Is
Yes,
the
let me
point?
Shakara. Let me also throw Imam Jamil Alameen, who is
Alameen,
very, very, very ill and innocent, just like Mumia Abu
absolutely.
Jamal.
Also known as H. Rap Brown, brothers and sisters.
That's
Yep.
right.
Mhm. Yep. Absolutely, Baba Sengo. Thank you for mentioning. Mama Chenzilla, I did want to give you space to make the points that you wanted to make, so feel free to do that now. As Mama Chenzilla is doing so, if brothers and sisters in the chat want to ask questions, please do so now, and I will put your questions to our elders who are stalwarts of the UNIA-ACL RC2020, long-standing activists, warriors in the Garvey tradition of our movement. And I'm going to suggest, my elders, that we continue for like another 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah.
It's okay.
All right. So
I
go
just
ahead,
wish.
Mama.
So I first and foremost need to preface what I'm about to say
Mhm,
because I did not get the opportunity to hear some of this live, but in seeing presentations by the Honorable PJ Patterson in Jamaica, I've had the opportunity to hear him speak truth to power in regard to representing the entire Caribbean
mhm,
region
mhm,
in the entire Caribbean region's demands for exoneration. And he was very specific. So
mhm,
I want to just use his words as they were reported from the existing PJ Patterson Center at the UE, the University of the West Indies, in
absolutely.
Jamaica.
Mhm,
And the first version I'm sharing is from February 22. And I just want to highlight that again, former Jamaican Prime Minister and Queen's Counsel P.J. Patterson says the litany of travesties surrounding the wrongful conviction of Marcus Garvey should be more than sufficient to persuade U.S. President Joe Biden to quash the verdict of guilt and clear the blot against Garvey's good name. And I want to quote what came from the Honorable P.J. Patterson. There was no evidence given during the trial on which a conviction could be based. And that is also the view of learned jurists and eminent trial lawyers. And this is, again, from PJ Patterson. His reputation, for those that do not know who PJ Patterson is, that means that you need to like revisit anything dealing with law, anything dealing with jurisprudence in the world, not
absolutely.
just in Jamaica, not
Yes, sir.
only in the Americas, but I'm going to say it again, in the entire global community, right? There was an address that he shared entitled The Exoneration of Marcus Garvey, and he was very specific and very direct, diplomatic, if you wish to call it that, but very direct And I quote, "The petition which we ask you to sign today is for a posthumous exoneration. This is in contrast to a request for presidential pardon and rests squarely on the central pillars of law. Pardons are to grant immunity or to remove any disabilities, such as the right to vote, against convicted felons. Exoneration is for the innocent, those who should have been acquitted at trial because there was no wrongdoing proven. I contend there was no evidence given during the trial on which a conviction could be based, and replete with glaring instances of prosecutorial misconduct, including state attorneys suborning evidence from key witnesses, and that in recommending clemency to President Calvin Coolidge 3 years after Garvey's wrongful imprisonment. Attorney General Sargent subsequently opined that the facts as reported to the department are severely stated and susceptible of modification and explanation. I submit the evidence was never there, and Garvey had no case to answer. He should
That's
have
right.
been recused. And again, these other persons, and I'm just highlighting what was shared through the Honorable PJ Patterson. And for those persons that just PJ, P period, period, PATTERS. So we know, because people seem to
Right.
want to go on as if they don't
Oh,
know,
right.
they're not sure, and they don't know who these people
That's
are
right.
because it's not a popular name in a particular space. But I need persons to be very clear that while there is a, because for some it's going to be an appreciation, people are going to
Mm-hmm.
commemorate January 19th, people are going to be, they're happy that there was
Mm-hmm.
something done for the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. And no one is discrediting that. No, and I think we've already said enough thank yous and acknowledgments and so forth. But let's get to the crux of the matter. How you gonna pardon somebody that was innocent? That you went out of their way to destroy his ability to take care of his family. I want to go back to that.
That's right.
You took him away from his wife and children. That's why I want to go back to him. You mash up the man's ability to have his engaging, successful. Millions of persons were engaged in the UNIA.
Absolutely.
And just because you see all of that moving so positive, and you seeing black people walk together in the midst of you lynching damn near everybody else, and
That's right.
murdering and terrorizing everybody else, you want to
Come
mash
on.
that up too? So
Yes.
you're not when we're doing things for ourselves with ourselves, and then you want to turn the other cheek. I not come from that there. I don't come from that. So that's
Absolutely.
why I kind of pull in, because as much as I desire
That's right.
to keep it so that what is being said is medicinal and clear, I really encourage persons to just Google. And if you want to be really scientific, Google scholar. Don't just go to Google where you can find anything. Go where you will find citations and documentation that speaks to the fact that whatever is different, you need to know. A pardon and clemency is very different than exoneration. And the people of the
That's
Caribbean,
right.
as I've shared through the voice of exceptional, knowledgeable jurists par excellence, like the Honorable PJ Patterson has been saying this. And again, that was in 22. And if we want to get real technical, then we can even look at what was coming up in 24, where this is someone who's highly respected. Let me get clear. He was highly respected in the Queen's Council, and even when she became an ancestor, in the current King's Council. That's who they go to understand jurisprudence. I just need for persons to really get clear on
Absolutely.
who the Honorable PJ Patterson is in his ongoing campaign for the exoneration. Go say that word. The exoneration of Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mama. I'm gonna put this out there, my elders. I don't know of too much out there in the audio visual world that actually breaks down this case. And it's important, and its importance. I think now is a good moment to put something together of that regard. And so I'm gonna pledge the resources, meager though they are, of Kimbunga Media, to attempt to do that with the legal minds and activists that have been around this case, just to break
Mhm.
down the details of this case in audio-visual form, 20 minutes, half an hour, and also the campaign for exoneration and or pardon. Yeah, and so hopefully in the coming months we can do that and release it in Messiah. Yeah, what I'm
Ashe.
talking about
I
is
think
very,
that
very
would be
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Ashe.
ahead.
I think that would be
Yeah.
excellent. I just want to highlight that while we're in this conversation, that
Mhm.
at least the links that I have access to that I'm using while we're speaking now are
Yeah,
being placed into our links in our media and our conversations, because that way
absolutely.
persons can actually go to
And check
attorney
it
and
out.
Ketchy, well, Queen
Right.
attorney and
Mhm.
Kechi Taifa's site, because it was just a few months ago that she interviewed Attorney Hansford, right? And they were
Yeah,
very, it was like about an hour. So you get a chance to get like really
go into it.
detailed information
Mhm.
on really explicating what took place in the case, what led up to that fraudulent conviction, and what transpired, what the intentions were, what documents were stolen, whose
Mhm.
home was invaded, how many
Yeah,
people. Let's talk about all the families that were dismantled, the impact and the trauma this had on children, right?
yeah,
The impact that this had on the economy of African Black people in the
yeah.
1920s, right? Even in the midst of the chaos. I'm really, so that part, I didn't hear the reparatory justice part in this. Like, I just saw the little blurb of what Marcus Garvey was. And like, when I hear people just referring to him as a civil
Civil
rights
rights. Yes.
activists, that I
Right.
know
Teach.
they forgot.
Oh,
They completely
please.
Right.
forgot that was like pre civil rights, like it was like a good 14 years
Absolutely.
earlier. Yeah. So
So
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
think it's important for persons to be
so
clear on articulating that. So what I will do is keep putting those links
Absolutely.
inside of this frame, and then we can, pull that together so that when you are, so we're not starting from the beginning. We're
No, no,
actually
so
starting,
absolutely not.
building on it.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I'm literally talking because I'm aware of the interviews. I'm literally talking about something in more documentary form and shorter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we
Got
can
'em.
hit the points and and keep it moving. Because I
so
think
All right.
that's
Shakara,
the. Go ahead. Go ahead, Baba.
just real quick, I really appreciate what Dr. Chinzara said about PG Patterson, because he was
Yep.
also at that 1987 hearing along
Hmm.
with Dr. Clark. So I wanted to
Yes.
throw those two names out there
Hmm.
because, like she say, people might not know of
New
how
York lawyer was
significant
there.
PG Patterson was. I mean, because he was absolutely, and I was there.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. What
I
was
was
the
there
New
to
York
witness it.
lawyer? What was the New York lawyers that was there from New York, Singor, in '87? Because there was a lawyer from New York that
There
was
was
there.
there was a lot of people, PG, and
Yeah.
me and Jackson Bay were there, but we I remember all of the panelists, and PG
Yeah.
Patterson was one of them.
Right.
As I said, Dr. Clark, Doc Ben. So I don't
Yeah.
know exactly that one, but I do. It was a lot of people there,
Right. Because
and,
he
and
that
and
that lawyer, you and I have had interaction with him
right.
here recent, right, in the recent future. But
I got you,
um,
PG. Well, it's so much, but I just wanted to throw those two out there because it's important, especially what Dr. Chinzara said, because as particularly people in the United States are snakes, they may not know of PJ Patterson like some of the people in the Caribbean, but
Of course.
he was extremely instrumental in supporting
Yes.
Dr. Julius Garvey
Yeah.
in this
Absolutely.
whole
Absolutely.
process. But anyway, go
Absolutely.
ahead.
Finally, we've got a comment in the chat, and the person says a Nubian INC 59 says the legal implications are part of why they limited the clemency to just a pardon. Exoneration opens the doors to litigation. Yeah, additionally, yeah.
right.
So that's an important point in respect of the fact that I raised earlier the
Yes,
idea that
Right.
property was confiscated and so on and has not been returned. Yeah, so that's a conversation that we need to
excellent
have,
point.
brothers and sisters. That is a conversation that we need to have. My elders, we're gonna come to a close. As said, brothers and sisters,
Before
we're
we
gonna
do,
conduct. Yeah, I'm coming to you, Baba. Don't worry, I'm
okay.
coming to you. If we, sorry, as we go forward, because this is like hot off the press news, we're gonna let them get through their jamboree, yeah, and their pantomime tomorrow. All right, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna let them go through that. You know what I'm saying? But later on in the week, we're going to reconvene and speak to some of the other brothers and sisters who have been involved in this campaign, so that we know what went into it, and the legalities and the political ramifications of all of this from all that perspective. Yeah, bear in mind that what you're speaking to hardcore Garvey activists who are dealing with race first, self reliance, nationhood. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And so, as they say, horses for courses, brothers and sisters. So
What's
you
this
know,
so cool? I gotta
we're,
remember
we're,
that.
you're not gonna find me in front of Congress. You know what I'm saying? Generally speaking, you know what I mean. Campaigning on this issue. That's just not my role. Yeah, my role is a bonfire, and that's what I'm going to do. Right? You know what I'm saying? That's why I run Kimbunga Media, because this is the firebun. You know what I'm saying? Environment. However, yeah, we have to understand and appreciate our brothers and sisters who do the different work in the different
That's right.
environments that we do that work, and whatever we say here, even as we contextualize correctly this particular issue, is not designed to take away from the tireless and good work of our brothers and sisters, our elders who have been campaigning on this issue for, as I've said, generations up until this point, brothers and sisters. It's just the fact that we know. I'll come back to that point, but for now, let me hand over to our PG because he has a statement to read, and so we'll do that, and then we'll close.
And I will also be officially releasing a statement. It was February 1922 that the then U.S. Attorney William Hayward handed down an indictment against the Honorable Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. The indictment charged Mr. Garvey with using the mail in furtherance of a scheme to defraud and conspiring to do so. By 1923, Mr. Garvey had been tried and convicted and as charged in the indictment. For decades, that one action of the U.S. government has foremost in contributing to the onslaught of criticism and opposition of Mr. Garvey from all sides, historians and commentators. That one action of the U.S. government allowed Mr. Garvey work to suffer and to be treated as unserious and disrespectfully. That one action overwhelmed, blasted, and labeled Mr. Garvey's visions as laughable and impractical, and continue the thoughts that Mr. Garvey's revolutionary nationalism was a threat to the U.S. and the rest of the European world. However, with that action, an unwritten spiritual, mental, and legal movement was started to erase this denigration of the good name of the reputation of Mr. Garvey and to uplift the truth. The U.S. government desires to crush Mr. Garvey, along with the U.S. government's desire to root out and destroy the movement started by Mr. Garvey, the largest black mass movement in the history of African Americans, African men and women from the world over. Doubted the conviction of Mr. Garvey. Their bias, the insufficiency of evidence, and the totality of the circumstances surrounding the conviction and highlighting that Mr. Garvey was wrongly convicted. Today, after decades of an attempt to do so, the U.S. government, through the action of the present President U.S. Joseph Biden, I like the other name that Tifo there gave him, Jim Crow Biden, issued a pardon of Mr. Garvey. That pardon sought to posthumously highlight the injustice underlying his criminal conviction. Though that is a step in the right direction, it is deficient in the intensity really needed for the actions taken by the U.S. government some 103 years ago. A pardon does not imply innocence. It merely forgives one for a crime or some wrongdoing the person was charged and or convicted of. On the other hand, an exoneration that a person is not guilty of the crime for which that person was previously charged and convicted, though the pardon may eliminate uncertainty from some peoples and lessen this interference with Mr. Garvey's plan, it does not go far enough. Under the leadership of the UNIA-ACL RC2020 exonerated Marcus Garvey. That this action was a pivotal in acknowledging for all African peoples wherever situated there was a mistake in the charge and conviction of the Honorable Right Excellent Marcus Garvey some 103 years ago. This action publicly acknowledged what all African people have known, that the charges and conviction of Mr. Garvey did not define him, that Mr. Garvey has been, should be, and always will be judged on the monumental contributions that he made to the struggle for the Pan African freedom, one God, one aim, one destiny. I wanted to say that now, and it will be a statement that will be issued out publicly and on letterhead so that all can see. We of RC 2020 stand firmly. Marcus Messiah Garvey, we exonerate Garvey. The pardon may be a nice gesture, but it's merely just that. I don't need a gesture. I don't need a pardon. I need America, maybe that correction. I want America to recognize America, England. See, America wasn't in this by itself. America, England, France. I want all of those European governments to acknowledge that Mr. Garvey was innocent. And I need them all to be accountable because all of them
Absolutely.
took from Garvey. All of
Absolutely.
them took from us. Asante
Absolutely.
Sana.
Thank you very much, PG. It's necessary for us to emphasize the fact that, brothers and sisters, Papa Garvey himself wasn't fighting for the exoneration of Marcus Garvey. Papa Garvey himself was fighting for the redemption of Africa and African people under a global sovereign government. And so until we've achieved that aim,
That's right.
brothers and sisters, the work is not finished. Yeah, the work is
That's
not
right.
done. So as I said, we can claim, yeah, we can claim this win. We can claim this win. But if we're doing Papa Garvey himself justice, we recognize that there's still much more work to do. As said, brothers and sisters, we're going to be speaking to some of the names that have been mentioned throughout the show. I don't want to declare anything right now because we're still securing those names. But are going to join us later on in the week to delve into greater detail. It was just important for the parent body of the UNIA-ACL RC2020 to come forward with a statement at this moment in time and bring that to you. So we hope that has been edifying for you. Please spread the word. Please share this video. And please, if you are not subscribed to Kimbunga Media, subscribe to Kimbunga Media. This is your premier universal African nationalist media institution in the 21st century. And we are here growing and developing and doing the Garveyite work that needs to be done. We want to give thanks to our President General, Baba Akili Nkrumah, our first assistant PG, Baba Senghor Jawara Baye, Mama Chenzida Kaina, our second assistant PG, and our third assistant PG, High Commissioner of the One Africa Commission, Mansa Fode Ajamu, brothers and sisters. Not forgetting our dear sister Kenya. Yes, indeed, over there in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And with that, we thank all of our guests. We thank all our brothers and sisters, Baba Julius Garvey, Mama Nkechi Taifa, uh, um, Brother Justin Hansford,
PJ Patterson.
PJ Patterson, all our brothers and sisters around the world, our ancestors, yeah, you know what I'm saying, of the UNIA ACL, from the president, all the president generals from Papa Garvey up until now, brothers and sisters. Honorable mention to Charles L. James. I'm going to say that name because he came to the UK in the 1980s, brothers and sisters, and is the man who wrote the introduction for Message to the People, the Course of African Philosophy, as
Yeah.
published by Baba Tony Martin. All of the president generals who stayed on this issue and educated generations to come, that we may continue the work. We say Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the
Tendai
universe.
Mawari.
Mutsimo Mokolo, we give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Messiah
Garvey
lives.
lives.
Mosiah lives.
Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Give thanks. And
Give thanks.
we exonerate
Black
Garvey.
people,
Yes.
we've got
Yes.
to fight.
Absolutely.
Jean Petro,
Give thanks,
you
Shakara.
see us.
Sante, my brother. Sante Senghor, Dr.
Oh,
Tanzera.
we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santa, why you see us? Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Book mine, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
We have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Medai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Medai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.